Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Today, I want to introduce you to a group of tough guys, coal miners from Pennsylvania who fought in the Civil War for 3 years in some of the war's biggest battles. Here's the image of them, and they are some of the members of the 96th Pennsylvania Infantry. 27 hard fought battles in the Eastern Theater from 1861 to 1864. You're looking at them, members of Company F, who sat for this portrait on October 25th, 1864, 4 days after they mustered out of the regiment. These guys were mostly coal miners from the Pottsville, Pennsylvania area. And if you watch these videos regularly, you know I take great pleasure in reading their names aloud. So listen and pause while I read them. I'm going to start in the front row, left to right. Private Michael Cavanaugh, Private Patrick Powers, Captain Edward J. Phillips, Sergeant Robert Borland, and Private William Manolis. In the back row, from left to right, Corporal Michael Carroll, Private Hugh Glacken, Private William Smith, Private John O'Donnell, and Private Philip Goulden. Now, I want to talk about one of these men in particular, but know that all of them were part of that 96 Pennsylvania who eventually went on to distinguish themselves with a rather grim designation of one of the 300 fighting regiments in William F. Fox's regimental losses in the American Civil War. If you're not familiar with Fox's book, he tallied up all the losses and, as the name implies, determined the 300 regiments that suffered the most casualties during the fighting. The man pictured here, Captain Edward J. Phillips, he was seated in the middle of the group photograph. I want to talk about him because his story is representative of these hard-fighting coal miners from Pottsville. He began his service in 1861 at age 17. Was a private in Company C of the regiment. In 1862, he proved himself in the thick of the action of the 7 Days battles on the Virginia Peninsula, at the Second Battle of Bull Run, the cornfield at Antietam, and the picket lines of Fredericksburg. In January 1863, he received a well-deserved promotion to Sergeant Major of the regiment. That's the highest non-commissioned officer position in a regiment. 1863 was equally bloody, with Phillips, Sergeant Major Phillips, and the rest of the Keystone State Boys in the fray at Chancellorsville and at Gettysburg, where they arrived footsore and exhausted after a long march on the afternoon of July 2nd, arriving just as Confederate forces attacked Little Round Top. Without a moment's pause, no rest, the men were ordered to take up a position near the Peach Orchard and Devil's Den. Phillips advanced to captain of Company F soon after that, went on to fight in more major battles in 1864, suffering a wound at the Battle of Spotsylvania. Altogether, he was in all 27 battles. Now, I want to read to you a story that appeared in a newspaper in 1918. It's about Captain Phillips, and it mentions Gettysburg and his wounding at Spotsylvania. It also notes the heroism of those coal miner boys. Here's the passage from the newspaper. Quote, "At Gettysburg, Mr. Phillips was Sergeant Major of Company F, the highest ranking officer of non-commissioned men. His company was engaged in that immortal conflict at the base of Little Round Top and to the right of Devil's Den. After Gettysburg, Mr. Phillips was made captain of Company F for bravery in the face of the gravest danger. At Spotsylvania Courthouse under Grant, Ulysses S. Grant, Captain Phillips received the most serious facial wound, shattering his jaw and causing the loss of 12 teeth. To hear him tell of that awful struggle on the rocky hills of Gettysburg or of the dreadful carnage of Spotsylvania makes one's true American blood run strong with determination to preserve the priceless heritage these heroes made possible for us. Mr. Phillips's experience in the coal mines of Pennsylvania before the Civil War may have had something to do with making him fearless and the rugged warrior that he was. It feels almost like war business when he relates the hairbreadth escapes in the coal caverns amidst rocks and pillars, digging dusky diamonds all the year round. In his prime, he was a fistic wonder whose prowess few dared to dispute, and of such stuff our warriors made. Remember, this story appeared in 1918. At that point, the veterans were disappearing quickly. They were in their 70s and 80s, and their time was growing short. And newspaper stories like this across the country were popping up as they realized the loss and looking at these men from a previous generation who stood up to defend their country. Captain Phillips is one of those men. He did live quite a bit longer. He died in 1933 at age 89. According to his obituary, he was the last survivor of the glorious 96th, one of the 300 fighting regiments of the Union Army. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.